What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian from House of Rasslin, and this is my review for Ric Flair's last match. Yes, Ric Flair's last match, July 31st, 2022. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell for the notifications so you're notified when House of Rasslin drops content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. This was a fun pay-per-view. It was a fun event. They really honored Ric Flair in this event. I loved all the messages and just the throwbacks to Jim Crockett promotions in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. I just loved all that. I grew up on that. I was a kid, a very young kid, when that was going on, so it just brought back a lot of memories. I enjoyed it. But I'm going to read the results right now and then go into detail of just all the fun, wacky, wild, crazy stuff that happened in this event. So I missed the Clark Connors match, but I did get the Bunkhouse Brawl, which was the match before the official pay-per-view launch. So forgive me, guys, for not having the Clark Connors match reviewed. But man, the Bunkhouse Brawl, you had Mance Warner from GCW win the Bunkhouse Brawl match. You had the Motor City Machine Guns. They defeated the Wolves. You had Killer Cross defeat Davey Boy Smith Jr. You had Jonathan Gresham defeat Nick Wayne, Alan Angels, and Takeshita. You had Brock Anderson and Brian Pillman Jr. defeat Ricky and Kerry Morton. You had Ray Phoenix defeat Bandito, Black Taurus, Laredo Kid. You had Josh Alexander and Jacob Fatu finishing a no contest. I'll get into that later. Then you had the Briscoes defeat the Von Erichs. You had Jordan Grace defeat Deonna Purrazzo and Rachel Ellering. Then you had the main event. Ric Flair and Andrade Idolo defeat Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. That was a really fun main event. Took a page out of the AEW Sting. I'll just leave it at that before I go over. So the Bunkhouse Brawl, you had the likes of James Storm, Bully Ray, Nick Gage from GCW, Joey Janela from GCW. You had Big Damo, you had Jordan Oliver, you had Crimson, you had Wolfie D, you had Effie, and you had Mance Warner. The final two participants in this Bunkhouse Brawl was Mance Warner and Bully Ray. They just started clubbing it out. There was a point where Billy Ray got the table, powerbombed Mance Warner, but in the end, Mance Warner won. You seen the entire, not the entire, but most of the GCW wrestlers come out because there was, the night before, Nick Gage was talking to Conrad like, hey, I'm going to invade the Ric Flair event. There's no GCW guys. What's up with that? And Mance Warner had the Bunkhouse Brawl trophy, which is a cowboy boot and the plaque or the belt buckle, and he had beer. He poured it in the thing, drank it. He went and talked to Tony Schiavone and David Crockett, who were in the back. Was it off right or left? Depending on where you were. They were off to the side of the entrance ramp. Bully Ray comes up to him. He raises his hand, and there's just nothing but GCW chants, GCW chants. I liked the match. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. And a lot of matches were like that on this card. It was like the nice amount. You had a few weapons and everything, but it just went so quickly. This reminded me of like the buy-in from All In? Like that Battle Royal that just had all those guys, but except this was like a little bit smaller, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. Bully Ray came out to, Welcome to the Jungle by the Guns N' Roses, which I thought it was ironic because I'm like, hey man, that's the Steiner Brothers song back in the day. It's like, come on, bro, can't use that. But no, he did a really good job in this match. Then you had video package and thank yous from Sting and Jim Ross. Then you had a promotion of Impact's Emergence next month. Then they cut it to Mick Foley, and this cracked me up. Tony Schiavone, he throws it to him when they're just talking and everything, and Mick Foley's talking to the crowd. He's like, hey, can you hear me? I'm glad to be here. This is fun. And Schiavone, I put more than one or two butts in the seat. And that's like, oh my God, they started laughing. Of course, that's a callback to when Tony Schiavone was fed the line back in January 4th of 1999 when Mick Foley beat The Rock and Stone Cold came out, and that pretty much shifted the Monday Night Wars where somewhere between 700, I think it was 700,000 people switched from watching Nitro to Raw. I thought that was funny. It was no harm. It was just hilarious. The timing and everything, that was just... Mick Foley has some great comedic timing in the last few years where it's just like, man, this is cool, man. Then we get a shot of the Spanish announce team, which is the infamous, legendary Spanish announce team in the WWF, and now they're with AAA. Hugo Slavovich, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Carlos, was it Madre or something like that? Forgive me, guys, but yeah, man, they were there, they were having fun, they were taking pictures. It was cool to see them because it's like, man, they're so synonymous with pro wrestling in America as far as Spanish commentary teams were just like, oh, this is like, okay, this is cool. Then we had the Motor City Machine Guns versus the Wolves. And what else I liked about this event was each match, like whatever promotion was there, like that announcer came out and announced the match with Tony Schiavone and Jim Crockett. So for the Motor City Machine Guns versus the Wolves, you had Scott D'Amore come out, and all these announcers were just giving props to Tony Schiavone and David Crockett's like, man, I grew up with you guys, 605, I'm back on the mothership, and just, for me, it warmed my heart because it was like, man, this is stuff that I grew up on. Saturday, 605, WCW, NWA, like, oh, man, this is wrestling. But man, this was an interesting match. It started off with a lot of double team moves from both teams, which I had no problem with. There was a Motor City chant. Then halfway through the match, man, this pace just started picking up. Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, man, did not lose a step. This was a fun match. This was a nice match to just get that crowd going to the next match and then the next match and the next match. And that's something that this event really did a really good job of. Even though it did feel some of these matches were short, they kept building the anticipation to the main event, which was, of course, Ric Flair's last match, which they did a really, for me, they did a really good job because they didn't do too much. They didn't do too little. They weren't like, oh, we're going to put these 20-minute classics and it's going to be a 5-hour event or anything. No, they did it for the right amount, which I loved. Then you had the MLW Showcase, which was Davey Boy Smith versus Killer Kross. He had Scarlett with him, and Joe Dombrowski from MLW was at the announce table with Tony Schiavone and Jim Crockett. It was good to see him. The other thing I liked about this with the different announcers and everything was each one shared their experience of watching and experiencing Tony Schiavone and David Crockett for Jim Crockett Promotions back in the day. And that was so cool. And it was like, man, I can relate to these guys. Like, this is fun, man. This is a fun thing. Man, this match was very methodical. It was a somewhat, you could say Karrion Kross was a little bit more physical in this match. There was points of mat wrestling, some very powerful submission holds, not anything technical or anything like that we're somewhat accustomed to see as of late in most of the other promotions. But in the end, Karrion Kross won. So I gotta say, Karrion Kross won. He looked good. Watching this, of course, with the things that are going on in the WWE and Triple H and just that whole thing, maybe it was me. You did get a sense like, hey, this is kind of like him showing off, like, I don't want to say showing off, but like kind of like giving a preview of like, hey guys, this is what I can do. Kind of like sending a message to whether it's AEW or WWE, like, hey, this is what I can do. You guys know what I can do. Here's a reminder of what I can do, and just with me and Scarlett, that presentation and everything. And I liked his intro. His intro's music for this was like, I liked it, man. It was fun. He's got a good look. I like him, and I look forward to seeing where he winds up in this interesting new era of professional wrestling. Then you had video package thank yous from Dolph Ziggler, but he used his real name, Ryan Nemeth, Shawn Michaels, Booker T, Jake Roberts, Will Sasso from Mad TV back in the day, Doug Dillinger. Yes, Doug Dillinger, the security guard. Let me phrase that. The infamous security guard in WCW. If you've watched the old Nitros and you've seen the security guard with the jacket on directing security, that was him. He was there. I liked it. That's, again, takes me back, man. I liked it. Then you had a shout out from Lex Luger. Just all the guys that he worked with in some way, shape, or form, and it was so fun. Then you had the Nick Wayne, Takeshita, Alan Angels, Jonathan Gresham match. And on commentary for this match, you had Ian Riccaboni, Tony Schiavone, and David Crockett. I believe Ian Riccaboni and Tony Schiavone did something on a Rampage. And I know it's Ric Flair is a side thing. I really do think that AEW is sleeping on a great commentary team between Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman have a great chemistry, but they're missing the boat on another great commentary team between Ian Riccaboni and Tony Schiavone. Like, they have, from someone who's I have a background in radio, TV broadcasting, there's a degree right there. Their inflection, their tone is very complimentary to each other. When they speak, it's as if they're having a conversation with us and not talking at us. And oh my God, it's just very soothing and just very. When they talk, they're informing us of the action that's in the ring, and they're giving us, and they're educating us almost in a way. I like that. So you had Ian Riccaboni. Gresham came out with the octopus mask, and shout out to Ian Riccaboni. Gresham comes out, they're talking about his history as far as Ring of Honor champion, and Ian Riccaboni with, man, this was so classy, but it was so clever, but yet at the same time, it was, how do I tweet it? He addressed it without addressing it. And he just said, hey, Jonathan Gresham right now, has an uncertain future. So we'll see. And Tony Schiavone kind of threw in towards the end of this match, he competed at Death Before Dishonor and just left it at that. So you had that. There was a great top rope moonsault by Alan Angels and Nick Wayne. This match was this match kind of went by really quick. I was expecting this to go a little bit, maybe 5 to 7 more minutes longer, but of course with time constraints and just wanting to get that main event. This match went pretty quick. Jonathan Gresham won. I don't have no problem with it because, again, the main thing about the show was Ric Flair's retirement match. But man, I would like to see this match run back between Nick Wayne, Takeshita, Alan Angels, and Jonathan Gresham. I would love to see that match run back because with enough time with this match, be really good, really good. So after this match, we get a video thank you from Cody Rhodes, and we get a video thank you from Nick Aldis. I know at this point they had various camera shots. Al Snow and Santino Marella were in the crowd. Vicky Guerrero was in the crowd. Then we go to the Rock and Roll Express. Should I call it Rock and Roll Express? Yeah, it was Rock and Roll Express. It was Kerry and Ricky Morton with Robert Gibson at ringside. And then you had Brian Pillman and Brock Anderson with Arn Anderson. I am going to say this. Conrad Thompson literally has given Tony Khan and AEW he just served them a potential tag team that they can do that makes so much sense. And I don't know why AEW did not think of this. And of course, now with Arn Anderson, Cody Rhodes isn't there, so he's more kind of in limbo. But man, oh man, Brian Pillman came out with his dad, Brian Pillman's trunks with the 4H on there. He looked sharp in that thing, man. And he was working as a heel, him and Brock Anderson. And I don't know what it is, but those guys had chemistry. Brock Anderson and Brian Pillman and Arn. There was just a synergy. I don't want to say it was like this, man. Oh my God, it's there. But it was just, if you've been watching wrestling long enough, man, there's something there. There's a synergy there. There's something that if you pull the trigger and you put them together, you can build it. Especially with a heel Arn Anderson. Mind you, we've had him as a face in AEW, and, you know, I'm a veteran, but no. Go back to Arn Anderson, Four Horsemen with Pillman and his son, and they're doing heelish tactics. Ooh, man, this was good. But this match, I mean, it went pretty quick, but again, the highlight of this was Brock Anderson and Brian Pillman Jr. working his heels. Brock Anderson, man, from the last time I seen him in AEW, which has been a few months, I know he's wrestled a couple matches on AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. But man, he's putting it together in a very complimentary way where you can tell he's getting more comfortable in the ring. And by that, I mean his fluidity in the ring is just getting more smoother. Because again, when you watch this on TV and everything, the more a wrestler is comfortable there, the more fluid everything just... It's like a cook in a kitchen. You know, when a cook knows wherever is comfortable in the kitchen, it's just a fluidity. If there's someone that doesn't know a kitchen and know the way around the kitchen, it's kind of clunky. But no, this Brock Anderson, Brian Pillman, they need to be a tag team in AEW with Arn Anderson as a heel manager. Conrad Thompson literally gave Tony Khan a freaking idea, and he needs to run with it, man. This was something I looked and I'm watching like Brian Pillman fits more with Brock Anderson than in Gift Garrison. Like, there's just something, I'm like, man, he fits there. Like, they don't have Julia Hart. Like, he fits there, man, and they just need to run with it. Then we had arguably this was the match of the night. Rey Fenix, Black Taurus, Laredo Kid, Bandito. This was a Lucha Libre style. There was a point in the match which was, for me, this was the highlight of the match. Bandito did a spinning Hurricane Rana like 5-6 times around Black Taurus. Like, he just kept on going. Like, it was like, whoa. And it was, honestly, I gotta say, from that moment, that's when this whole event just went to another level. Like, because, man, this was the match of the night. There was a top rope power slam that Laredo Kid did on, I think it was Rey Fenix. Like, it was great. Like, he's standing on the top rope and he does a power slam. Then there was a point in the match where Bandito did a flip over the rope and Black Taurus caught him. And, man, thank you, God, that he caught Bandito, because the way Bandito would have landed, he would have landed on his neck on the concrete. And it was like, ooh, man, he saved him. Like, he saved him. Like, he really saved him. Then there was a fall-away slam. Laredo Kid, I believe it was Bandito, but he did a top rope fall-away slam onto Black Taurus and Rey Fenix, which was insane. In the end, Rey Fenix wins. This was a fun match. This was a Lucha Libre style. There was so much synergy and it was so entertaining. Where it's just boom, 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 boom. Like, it was just so fun what they did. Then we had Josh Alexander versus Jacob Fatu. You had the power. No, let me rephrase that. You had the mat wrestling and the grappling of Josh Alexander and the agility, you could say. And then you had the power and the agility of Jacob Fatu. This was a nice clash. The superplex that Josh Alexander performed on the top rope, which was insane, especially to Jacob Fatu. Another aspect of this match was Jacob Fatu's agility being showcased in this match. Like, it was, oh my God, it's the jump, when he jumps on the rope. No, he jumps on the turnbuckle, then he jumps on the rope, then he does a springboard flip onto the guy. Man, that's a beautiful thing, especially for his size and just how smooth and fluid that thing is. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then you had Jacob Fatu perform his infamous moonsaults. He did a Samoan drop on Josh Alexander. And as the match is getting interesting, we see Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, and Mark Sterling interfere. They just interrupt the match. It was like, oh man, who's going to win? So they're doing their thing. Matt Cardona takes off his brace. He's about to hit Josh Alexander. And then the camera cuts away, and lo and behold, we see Diamond Dallas Page. Yes, DDP jumps the guardrail, starts hitting everybody, and then he performs a diamond cutter on Matt Cardona. That place went nuts. It was like, oh my God, DDP's here. And what I also liked about this was they played his WCW entrance theme, like his official WCW entrance theme, which was I loved it. It was dope. It was so much fun, man. Then you had a backstage segment where the interviewer goes to the back wanting to interview Jeff Jarrett, and you get a USW reunion. And I know USW, look it up. It was Jerry and Jeff Jarrett's promotion back in the late in the 80s, 90s, that thing. So you got Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Jarrett, and Jerry the King Lawler there. And Jerry the King is acting more like a heel, which I love this because it's like, that's how Jerry the King Lawler became legendary, because of his heel tactics. It was so cool. Then you had the Von Erichs versus the Briscoes. Man, the Briscoes were physical in this match. They were more physical. The Von Erichs were like, yeah, this was kind of a lopsided match. To me, I mean, it was a lot of brawling. It was just great. The highlight for me was Marshall Von Erich performing the infamous Von Erich Claw on the Briscoes. But in the end, Mark Briscoe performed an elbow drop. They pinned him 1, 2, 3. The Briscoes win. This match was really quick and like one-sided. So you really, if you watch the Von Erichs on MLW and what you're accustomed to seeing them do, like, you really didn't see it in this match, but what you're accustomed to seeing the Briscoes do, you saw it in this match. So it was kind of like, I could see for time constraints, they probably wanted to cut things short, but it did feel more one-sided with the Briscoes and the Von Erichs. Then we get another, actually it was a repeat video of Sting's thank you to Ric Flair. Then we get Deonna Purrazzo, Jordan Grace, and Rachel Ellering. Right off the bat, it seemed like Rachel Ellering injured her knee. She wound up working through the match, which is, hey, kudos to her. Again, this was another match where it was like, I don't know, it was slightly balanced. It did feel like this match felt like an Impact Wrestling match from like 2021 when there was no fans at Impact Wrestling, because it felt like I've seen this match before. Not that it's a bad thing. Like, these three women put on excellent matches, but it did feel like I was like, okay, this feels like an Impact Wrestling match, and just the fluidity, the spots, and everything was just like, all right, it is what it is. But man, it was a decent match. Once Rachel Ellering, she just gutted it through. Hopefully she's okay. But yeah, it was pretty cool. But there was one cool spot, was the powerbomb that Rachel Ellering did with Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo. They were on the top rope, almost attempting a superplex, and she just went on, did the powerbomb. But yeah, it was okay. I'm not gonna say it was bad or anything like that. It was just more than likely for time constraints and stuff like that. They probably cut it short, but it is what it is. Then we get a shot of The Undertaker. Yes, The Undertaker, Mick Foley, Michelle McCool, all at ringside. That was fun and cool to see that. It's like, oh man, they got Undertaker. Like, they got everybody in every promotion to send a thank you to Ric Flair. Then the main event, we get Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett versus Andre El Idolo, Ric Flair, Jarrett comes out to his TNA theme, which is so annoying. When it played, I was like, ugh. Like, I really didn't like Jeff Jarrett as a wrestler in TNA. He was just so annoying. That he did his job because he just annoyed me. It's like that song was so annoying. It's just like, it's like, ugh. It was just annoying. That I think it was more I didn't like him because of his song. Like other as a performer and everything, he was all right. Like for me it was just like, he's all right. He does his thing. He's all right. But man, and I mean he had a guitar, so you knew when he used it, it's like, all right, this guy's like, stop using the guitar. But it was cool. So you get that. There's a point in his entrance where he pushed Conrad Thompson. Then you get Jay Lethal come out. Andrade comes out. He holds up. And then, man, it was about maybe 2 minutes or so. Ric Flair comes out in the white robe. He turns around. And he comes out with the big gold belt. Yes, the WCW NWA World title, the big gold belt, which is synonymous with Ric Flair, that he's made famous. That was cool. That was so cool. He comes to the ring, and he has a shirt on and everything. And the match itself, I will say, like I said earlier in this review, they took a page out of AEW and Sting. Give him in there a few shots. Take him out, a few shots, boom, boom. They kept the spots simple. Of course, Ric Flair being 73, and with, I believe, a heart monitor, whatever it is in his heart. He has that, but he did pretty good for his age and what they wanted to do. He did it. He did his job. He got sympathy. He sold the best he could and everything. He didn't try to do too much, which I do credit him for that. And I do like the fact that Andrade, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett had most of the match. And mostly, shout out to Andrade, man. He pretty much took all the bumps of the match. And Rick just took a punch or something, but he took the bumps and everything. There was a point in the match where Ric Flair had the "You Still Got It" chants. Thank you, Conrad chants. Then there was, of course, Ric Flair doing strut, which I liked. When Jeff Jarrett tried to leave, came back. Then, of course, in this match, Jeff Jarrett got busted open. But man, this was honestly the longest match of the night, which, looking back on the whole card, it makes sense why some of the matches before were short and everything, but this was a fun match. And of course, in the end, Ric Flair, he wins. Kind of got scared. It was like, all right, like he's just laying there, he's not moving, and then he moves his legs. Like, oh, okay. Like, whew. I don't want to see something tragic. It's supposed to be celebration. After the match, he gets at ringside. He starts thanking the people. He hugs his wife, his daughter, Charlotte Flair's oldest sister. Let me clarify that. It was Charlotte. I don't think Charlotte was. Maybe Charlotte was backstage, but I don't think she was. I know she wasn't at ringside. You had Undertaker, Mick Foley, Bret Hart, Michelle McCool give him a thank you. He thanked everybody. He said, man, wow, I did this a second time. I'm just thankful. Tony Schiavone, which, man, it just brings back memories for me as a kid. Tony Schiavone's like, man, in 1983, you were my first interview, and now look at where we are. And that's the thing. Most wrestling fans, my age, and that's like 36 and older, like, we grew up with this, man. Like, we grew up with these stories of the Horsemen and Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. Shout out to Bob. I hope I pronounced it. Bob Cadal. He was one of the other normal NWA announcers on like Worldwide with Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone during that infamous run of the Horsemen and everything. So it was just so, like, brought back so many memories. And yeah, that ending was just, he had blood and everything. He just thanked the crowd, and you could tell he was very thankful and everything. But man, overall, this this event, the Ric Flair's last match, did its job. It put on some pretty decent matches. Some guys showcased, their talent. Killer Cross. The story that the Jarretts were telling. Because they did go backstage in between some matches and give us an update and everything. But it did its job. I think this main event with Ric Flair, Andrade versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, it was actually better than I expected. And I did like that. Again, I did like that they kept it simple. They didn't try to do too much. And they actually wrestled to Ric Flair's strengths, which is very smart. Don't try to do anything, of course, with whatever's... I know I think it was a pacemaker in his heart or something like that. But, they're just very cautious and just keep it boom, boom, boom. And it was just so simple. And I think that's what I liked. It was so simple, yet effective. And Andrade did his thing, man. That was Andrade El Idolo was the MVP of that match because he was the glue to that match. And after Ric Flair thanked everybody, he went up to the stage. He had the big gold belt. He raised it up. Jay Lethal comes out. They start talking. They hug. And then the camera cuts to all these photos, which was, I had no problem. It was like, oh, man, you should have kept it a little bit longer. But maybe it was because of time constraints. But, man, this was a fun event, man. This was a fun event. I hope, and honestly, I think now more than ever, we'll probably see more types of events like this for legends, the legends that are around or what have you. Especially considering you have Triple H, which is in charge of creative, and Stephanie McMahon and that whole thing. Of course, there's still stuff going on with Vince McMahon. But, I mean, the pro wrestling industry is changing, with WWE and, things with AEW and New Japan and stuff like that. So pro wrestling is changing, but this was a nice event. And it was a nice event to cap off a really busy weekend in Tennessee with SummerSlam, GCW, New Japan, and this. So it was just a nice cap-off event, and hope Ric Flair is healthy. He's around a lot longer and just, enjoying life and just a lot of good things, man. It was good to see him just go out on that route and that element. Of course, in 2008, when the Shawn Michaels thing, that was WWE's way of, his last match. But this was a send off of the NWA Ric Flair. Like, for me, I feel like what they did in WWE in 2008 was more of Ric Flair, what we knew of the Monday Night Wars and WWF send off. But this was more like, no, this is how Ric Flair became Ric Flair, that became synonymous in the Monday Night Wars and WWF and Evolution and stuff like that. Like, no, this is how Ric Flair became Ric Flair, and I really like this. And again, shout out to Conrad Thompson, David Crockett, Tony Schiavone, all the announcers, Ian Riccaboni, Tom Hannafin, which I forgot to mention, he was broadcasting a few matches, Joe Dombrowski. Man, this was a fun show, man. This was fun. If you didn't watch it, or you're like, I don't want to watch it, like, check it out. It's an easy. That's the thing. This whole show was an easy watch. Like, it just breezed by so quickly. So that was my review for Ric Flair's last match. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notifications so you are notified of the latest content that's dropping from House of Wrestling. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, pro wrestling is fun right now, so let's enjoy.